Welcome to another exciting episode of Legitimate Matters. You know, as I was thinking back on this year and even the year ahead, I asked myself, where are we today? Politics is seemingly out of control to some degree. There are so many challenges that we face from day to day, and Legitimate Matters is all about inspiring my viewers to find solutions and find ways to really manage and to cope and to develop those coping mechanisms so that we can make better informed decisions. I'm so excited today to have a great guest on my show, Joseph Holland. Joseph, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, William. So great to be here.
Well, Joseph, I'm excited, and I want my viewers to know why I'm excited. I'm excited because you have done so much in the course of your young life to inspire and to be a leader, and you've made a real impact in the lives of so many. And you've done that through working in a homeless shelter, you're in politics, you've had an impact in Harlem, the lives of men, and you're an author, you're an attorney. I said to you before we started rolling the cameras that we should have a panel here of 5 different people, and they would all be Joseph Holland. Well, Joseph, I'm going to turn this over to you and tell us a little about yourself and how your most recent book came to be, Vigorous Virtues. And from this point, I'm going to let you tell my viewers who you are.
Well, thank you, William. You know, once again, I'm really delighted to be here because your purpose is my purpose. Because when you talk about inspiring your viewers, my chief aim is to be inspirational in all that I do, and that really comes from how I was raised. I had 2 great parents. In fact, my dad ended up from very humble beginnings, becoming a U.S. ambassador, and was a great role model for me. And then I went on from that family background and then got further strength and inspiration through my spiritual life.
I see.
And that made me make some choices that some people didn't really understand or affirm, but I was fortunate. I had an Ivy League background in Cornell and BA and MA to Harvard Law School, where I got my law degree. And instead of going to Wall Street, I had a law firm offer there.
Okay.
I ended up saying, no, I want to put myself in a position where I can give back to community. So I moved to Harlem and lived and worked there for many years, and I still do. And that allowed me to be in a position to not only give back to community, but also to grow into my own fullness, into my own purpose, into my own destiny. And so I've done a number of different things as I've pursued that destiny.
Well, you've had tremendous opportunities. You mentioned that you attended Cornell. You have a law degree from Harvard, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
You could have done so many things, or you could have made so many choices, I should say, and taken your life in a completely different direction. But how do you go from Harvard to working in other capacities in a destination or a community like Harlem? Not that there isn't much work to be done, so I get that. But what was it inside of you that caused you to take that turn in such a profound direction in your life?
It was really a sense of let's call it divine calling.
Okay.
Right. I sense that there was really something different that God wanted me to do with my life, and the
Okay.
scripture that resonated for me: to whom much is given, much is required.
I see.
And because that resonated with me in such a powerful way, I decided, and this was contrary to the advice of my parents and my professors and
Imagine.
my peers, who all thought I was a little off and saying no to Wall Street and yes to 125th Street. I decided to go. I decided to go in that direction, and I have to tell you, William, it was challenging.
I'm sure.
For me, particularly early on, because I'm not from Harlem. I grew up in the South, Virginia, on the campus of Hampton University, and then spent some time in Europe growing up, and then in the suburbs. So I didn't have that urban background and understanding. So it was a steep learning curve.
You see, that's what makes this conversation for me. That's what makes me so curious about this type of a transition, because you have a different background. You mentioned that you had your dad is certainly an acclaimed individual, being an ambassador to Scandinavia and being involved in sports. You come from a two-parent home. You've attended Ivy League schools. You grew up in Virginia. Others out there would be looking at this and saying, well, this is a privileged individual. But yet you found yourself in an environment with underprivileged. And you have to now take all of that and find a way to not you just relate to them, but them relate to you. That's puzzling, but very, very relevant, because you've made an impact on the lives of these individuals. How did this all transpire? What comes after? Is it the chicken or the egg? What came first and next? You've had this spiritual calling on your life, and even though no one else understood it, you did.
Yes.
And it was a passion inside of you. But now you have to move forward, and in spite of what the voices that you're hearing from others, and break through barriers. And this is important for viewers, because we all want to break through barriers, but we struggle to find a way to do that. How do you do that?
Well, the best way for me to illustrate my response to that was with an account from my days when I started and ran a homeless shelter in Harlem, Hawk Homes. And one day at the shelter, counseling it was a men's shelter, a small 15 men in the basement of a church. And I'm counseling one of the men, and I used an Ivy League word that he really didn't understand, and he kind of pushed back at me. And but then he says, Rev, he called me Rev, I also, went to college, and took me by surprise. And I said, well, you did? He said, yeah. And I said, which college? He said, UCLA. I said, UCLA? And he leaned in, looked at me. He says, yes, the university on the corner of Lenox Avenue.
Okay, all right.
But his point was that, yeah, book knowledge is important, but street knowledge is important too. And I had to have the humility, right, in what I was doing, so that I could be open to learn from guys like him about what it is that I didn't get in the classroom at Cornell or in the lecture hall at Harvard, but would allow me to understand all of the dynamics that go into what really makes a solution
Got it.
to his problems and the problems of others.
I like that word solution because that's what we all are looking for in our personal lives, in our professional lives. It's always about solutions. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, let's talk about some of those solutions that you came up with and the transition from your first book to your current book and how that has changed lives and how you continue to change lives. Legitimate Matters, William Parris. A great story, great conversation. We'll be right back.